And good evening, Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of Pakistani American Voters Association, also known as PAVA, I welcome you all. My name is Kesser, I go by Q, and I actually serve as the community organizer with PAVA. Tonight is a special night, and it's special because of many reasons. Number one, because you all are here, and that's what makes it really special. But it's also what we're celebrating and what we're thankful for. We have in this room many people who can vouch that it is truly an amazing feeling and something to be thankful for, to be part of this unique celebration of America 250. And we're going to hear a lot about this. But more importantly, I'm going to say this now because you're going to hear this over and over again tonight. It's important because we don't just celebrate the 250 years that have passed, but what we can do for the next 250 years in this country. Like always, we will start with an invocation, and I'm actually going to go ahead and recite a chapter from the Holy Quran. It's the first chapter, Surah Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. And to paraphrase, it is probably the most prolific and most appropriate words for what we celebrate, the 250 years. It's a reminder that truly there is one entity that is the owner of all the universes. And truly it is that entity that we lean into for help and worship. And then we ask for guidance. Guidance to stay on a path that will make us not only good in His books, but also for amongst ourselves and for the next 250 years. And we also ask for His guidance to stay away from the path that will get us all into trouble with Him and in the next 250 years. We have, followed by the national anthems of the United States and Pakistan, a quick update and an overview of Pakistani American Voters Association organization.
For
At this point, I'd like the Vice President of PAVA, Mr. Azam Akhtar, to please join me on the stage. Mr. Akhtar will briefly go over with you PAVA's accomplishments and especially the role in the upcoming elections.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Pakistani American Voters Association, PAVA, I extend a warm welcome to all our distinguished guests, elected officials, community leaders, friends and supporters. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, a nation whose democracy has given generations of immigrants the opportunity not only to dream but also to serve. PAVA's story of civic engagement did not begin overnight. Ladies and gentlemen, the seed of our community's political participation were planted decades ago in the windy city of Chicago during the early 1980s, in the era of President Ronald Reagan. But those seeds truly blossomed here in the space city of Houston. That turning point came in 2003, when one of our own, Mr. M.J. Khan, made the courageous decision to run for this Houston City Council from the highly diverse district of F. For the first time, our community united behind one candidate with a shared vision and a common purpose. Together, we elected one of our own to public office. Mr. M.J. Khan did not simply win an election. He gave our community confidence. He proved that Pakistani American could lead, could serve, and could earn the trust of an entire city. His professionalism, integrity, and dedication earned him respect throughout the city. Dear ladies and gentlemen, in the years that followed, more than 40 members of our community were elected as a Democratic President chairs, and more than 20 were elected as a Republican President chair. This was never about two political parties. It was about civic participation. It was about believing that our voices matter and that our responsibility extends beyond voting to serving. Today, we are proud to witness the result of that vision. Dozens of Pakistani Americans have run for public offices, served on boards and commissions, participated in civic life, and contributed to strengthen our democracy. Not every candidate won, but every candidate who had the courage to run opened another door for the next person to come forward and make a difference. PAVA is proud to share that today 7 Pakistani Americans are serving the people of Texas in elected offices, each making valuable contribution to public service. That is a remarkable achievement. Let's recognize all of them with another well-deserved round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, that is why we have gathered here tonight. As America celebrates 250 years of democracy, freedom, and opportunity, we celebrate our community's own journey from political observers to active participants and public servants. Tonight is not only about recognizing those who have won election, it is equally about honoring those who dared to serve, who inspired others, and who strengthened our community through civic engagement. PAVA is a non-profit 501c3 organization incorporated in the great state of Texas. Our mission is simple but powerful: to encourage civic participation, promote voters' engagement, develop future leaders, and strengthen our community through public service. Our doors are open to everyone, whether you are a student, a professional, a business owner, or a retiree. There is a place for you in this movement. Together, let us continue building bridges, inspiring future generations, and strengthening both our Pakistani American community and the country we proudly call home. Thank you for being here tonight. May God bless each of you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Mr. Azam Akhtar. If I can ask Mr. Rauf Khan, the president, to please join us at the stage. At this point, I will ask Ms. Hina Qadri from the Office of Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo to please come to the stage.
Well, it's such a great honor to be here on behalf of Judge Lina Hidalgo's office, and I have a message from her that she is extremely proud of the great work that PAVA has been doing. Especially, she's a big advocate for civic engagement, and she has sent this proclamation for PAVA, and thank you for celebrating the 250th anniversary as well, birthday.
Please.
We have identified that area in yellow on the map. These are the precincts that PAVA volunteers as well as PAVA canvassers will be knocking on approximately 3,000 doors of low to moderate propensity voters in these households. And our job is to increase the awareness, but also continue to focus on making sure that they do come out and vote in November. Not sure if it was clarified, but PAVA is a nonpartisan organization. So the doors we're knocking on, our first most objective is to make sure that they come out and vote. And we end there as PAVA. For those who may be running in this election, it is now your job to perhaps hit those doors and make your case. Remember, PAVA is getting people out to vote, giving them the information about the election, empowering them, letting them know the power they have with their vote. But if you're a candidate in this election, it is your job to convince them who to vote for. We're going to keep moving this agenda. As I mentioned, this is a special occasion. And so we have a very special person to celebrate this with us. And I have the distinct pleasure, actually, of introducing this gentleman. Stranger to no one in this room, District Attorney Brian Middleton has dedicated nearly 3 decades of his life to the pursuit of justice. As a lawyer, as a judge, as an educator, and then as a district attorney, he has been focused on ensuring that when it comes to justice in our society, it is not compromised. Since first being elected in 2018, D.A. Middleton has led our county with a commitment to integrity, accountability, fairness, and public safety, which earned him a statewide recognition and was named as the Texas Prosecutor of the Year. I think that deserves a big hand of applause. You know, we all know this. I don't need to tell you this, but Fort Bend County is one of the most diverse communities in America. And the Pakistani American community, and you will see later on in another slideshow, contributes significantly in the fields of business, healthcare, education, philanthropy, volunteering, and of course, public service. And we believe that strong communities are built through partnerships, through communication between the leaders and the communities. I've had the privilege of knowing D.A. Middleton for many years and have seen firsthand his commitment to serving the people of Fort Bend County, all people of Fort Bend County, if I may add to that. And it is that spirit of service and dedication to our community that makes him such a fitting keynote speaker as we celebrate America 250, and most importantly, reflect on our nation's enduring ideals of liberty, opportunity, justice, and responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm PAVA welcome to our Fort Bend County District Attorney, the Honorable Brian Middleton.
First of all, good evening. Salam alaikum. You know, I'm at home. As I sit here and I look around the room, and I've greeted most of the people in this room, I realize I'm with friends. And you gotta give yourself a pat on the back, because there are many events organized in Fort Bend County, but none like Pakistani events. And the reason I say that is the room is always full, okay? People care, they show up, they engage, and they participate. So that's something to be proud of, and that's something to recognize. And it is a model for other ethnicities in our community to be engaged and have this same enthusiasm. We are this year celebrating 2.5 centuries of independence. That's a long time. But we also recognize in our current turbulent times is that we are still evolving. It would seem that 2.5 centuries would be enough for perfection, but something as wonderful and broad as the U.S. Constitution takes time to get right. And part of that reason is that the United States has evolved over time. At one time, it was more monolithic than it is now, but it has grown to have a diversity that reflects the entire world. And one of the things that we have in common with Pakistan is that we have this shared independence, this shared struggle and revolution to create independence. We think about the efforts of the All India movement started by Mahatma Gandhi, and the great achievements of poets like Muhammad Iqbal. Just like in America, there were a lot of actors and a lot of journalists who advocated and helped create change. And no conversation would be complete without talking about Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the Quarter-Millennial, the great leader who worked so hard to create an independent Pakistan. So we have shared traditions, a shared pathway to independence. And we share this country now. And we're both governed by constitutions. Now, I submit to you, no constitution and every constitution is limited by the people who are willing to defend it. Do you hear me? Our Constitution is no stronger than the people that are willing to defend it. So in these times in America right now, it's time to be strong. It was said that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. we got to stand up for that now, and we got to be willing to defend our ideals as they are contested in our current times. And there's no greater time to start that than the 250th anniversary of this great country. And it's in Fort Bend where we have this great diversity. You know, it depends on who you ask. Some study says it's the most diverse county in the nation. Others say it's the most diverse in Texas. But whatever the case is, it is diverse. And it is unique in how we conduct ourselves, in the way that politics progresses. And I can tell you, having traveled the country and the state, a lot of people know where Fort Bend County is, and they know what's going on in Fort Bend County. I just returned from a trip with my youth program called the Freedom Tour. We went to all these different towns. And I was amazed at, even in some of these small places like Montgomery, Alabama, that we ran into people from Fort Bend County. And they knew who we were. Fort Bend County is a world leader. It's no longer a small town. People have taken note of who we are. And part of the reason that it's so famous is because of our great diversity. Last night I had the privilege of participating in a roundtable with our state representative, Salman Boljani. And it was, and some of you were there last night, but it was a unique opportunity for us as elected officials and community leaders to sit in round tables and talk about religious freedom. And we shared with the members of the Religious Freedom Caucus our ideals of what we think legislation should look like. But in that effort, as we sat around in small groups and talked, we talked about our differences. At my table, I had a rabbi. I had a member of the Baha'i faith, myself, a Christian, and a few others at the table were of different faiths. But as we sat there, what we all focused on was what we had in common. And the emphasis on some people to have us to be separate. The whole idea of divide and conquer so we can be controlled. And what we all concluded is that we should all have the freedom to express ourselves spiritually. And the other thing that we noted is that of all the religions at the table, we all had something in common, all Abrahamic religions, right? We all studying and reading the same history, right? But there are people who want us to forget that and forget our shared beliefs and our shared traditions and want us to fight each other. And I can tell you, don't fall victim to that. Don't fall victim to the divide and conquer. And the way to make this country strong and great is to be united. It is to stand up for the ideals and the tenets described in our documents in the United States Constitution and defend those ideals. And what we've seen in America over the last few years is what many will call a rotting of our values. And it's time for us to stand up as a community and say enough. As we look in this room, united together, we need to stay united together and stand strong against the people who want to see us divided. When you cannot turn on the TV right now without seeing some Islamophobic remark, no one should be okay with that. You know, there are people who will try to convince you that they are Christian and that they oppose Sharia law, and that's a concern and why they should have these shared Islamophobic remarks. But I'm here to tell you that is un-American. That is unconstitutional, and if you call yourself a Christian, it is not Christian. So we need to restore our faith. We need to insist that our traditions and our Constitution be respected. And then we need to continue to have discussions like we had last night and have meetings like this one right here where we come all together. And this is a bipartisan meeting. As I look around and I see my friends from the Republican Party, my predecessor, John Healy, Mark Hanna, Judge Mark Hanna, who I started at the DA's office many years ago when we were young kids, as I would say, along with Tyra McCollum, who's sitting there. But it's time for us to stand strong. It's time for us to be united, insist on our values. I mean, there was a struggle in Pakistan. There was a struggle in the United States, and we have that in common, a desire to be free, a desire to be able to express ourselves in our own individuality, in our religious expression. Shared beliefs, a shared mission, and a shared community is what we have. So I encourage you to celebrate, as American citizens, the independence of the United States. And I also, at the same time, encourage you to stand up for why you chose this country. It's our Constitution, it's our freedoms. It's the thing that makes America the greatest country on earth, and why so many people will risk their lives to come to this country. Now, some people are offended by immigration, but we should be flattered. Why would people risk their lives to come here? Because it's great. Who would not want greatness? Who would not seek greatness? So instead of condemning those people, we need to come up ways that we can do that in an organized fashion, in a civilized fashion that respects everyone. But immigration is not a bad thing. It's a reflection of who we are. Now, when we see an exodus, then we know we have a problem, right? When people are lining up to get out of the United States, then we know we have a problem. But until then, we know we have something great that we all need to protect. And one of the greatest things about Fort Bend County, and I say it everywhere, is our diversity. It's what makes us rich. It's what makes us different than every other county in the United States. In the coming days, I'm going to do a press release to talk about a study that I commissioned about crime in Fort Bend County. I'm not ready to reveal that at this time, but when you do, I guarantee you everyone in this room that calls Fort Bend County home will be proud of where they stay. And the reason is debatable of why Fort Bend County is great. But in my position as district attorney, I believe it's attributable to the quality of the people who live in Fort Bend County. Now we can say it, I see my friends in the back, I see Corey and, Corey in the back and the assistant chief for Patrick Quincy. I could say it's because of Chief Becker and Captain Hanson, but it's because of the people who live here. Now, we need to have a great law enforcement. And I'm sorry, Darryl, I did see you sitting up here. Another police officer, and Patrick, now I see you sitting up front. But we need to have good men and women in law enforcement to keep us safe. But I guarantee these men don't have enough strength on their own to make Fort Bend County what it is today. And I have to give credit to our citizens for making Fort Bend County safe, okay? So when the results and conclusions of the study are revealed, I guarantee you'll be proud to call yourself African American, Pakistani American, Mexican American, and you'll be glad to say that you live in Fort Bend County, where you, and because of its diversity, can live freely and happily and safely. So Let us all celebrate the greatness of Fort Bend County, the greatness of United States, and the greatness of our friends in Pakistan and our Pakistani Americans. And, you know, we say God bless America, and my understanding in Pakistan, they say, long live Pakistan, Pakistan Zindabad. Did I say that right? But I can tell you, as your district attorney, it is indeed an honor to represent this county. Thank you.
We thank you for your service. Fort Bend ISD trustee of Shincherania. Okay, then we have Fort Bend County Precinct 4 Constable Patrick Quincy. Then we have, and I'll get to you, Judge Sonia Rash, Fort Bend County Precinct, Justice of Peace, Precinct 3. Our District Clerk, Beverly Walker. Judge Julie Matthew. I'm going to move to the table right behind you, and Judge Tyra McCullum. Judge Mark Hanna. Judge Surendran Patel. Judge Monica Rollins. Did I miss anyone else on that table? The table? No? Okay, then we'll move to this front table. Fort Bend County Precinct 2 Constable, Darrell Smith. Thank you once again. Let's give them all one big round of applause for taking time out to be here. Pakistani Americans are here, we're living here, not just to make a living, but truly to make this society, this community, a wonderful place to raise families, to work, to bring your business, to educate your child, to do philanthropic ventures. And there are so many people that we're thankful for. You know, these are the folks who stepped up, knowing sometimes that the name may sound funny. The accent may not be exactly what people in Texas are used to. At this point, I will ask the PAVA board members to please join us at the stage here. We knew that there are conflicting schedules, so we wanted to make sure that we can put a deck of slides for you all to see all of these wonderful Pakistani Americans who have served in different capacities, all the way from Texas State Legislature to our City Council. So let's give them all a round of applause, please. As a mental note, that this is what we are responsible for. Remember when I introduced D.A. Middleton, there was a word responsibility. We ask our leaders to do this and that, but we are responsible firsthand to do our part. And there's no one better I can think of to make sure that we walk away with a solid call to action plan than my dear friend and someone that I look up to, Honorable of Shincherania.
You know, I see what you did, Kesarbai. You put me right before dinner, so I'm actually between dinner, you know, and this. So I'm going to keep it short. As Kesarbai said, this is a call to action. Before I start, I wanted to say thank you to Kesarbai, and there's so many people in this room like Sophia and Farah, because today, my being elected, I stand on their shoulders, because they paved the way for so many of us, Pakistani Americans, to run and to win with not just their support, but the entire Pakistani American community support. So thank you so much for that, because we really owe this to you. Thank you. So my journey in elected office actually started by being a VDR. So for those of you who don't know what a VDR is, it's a voter deputy registrar. So the county certifies you to actually register other people to vote. And that is where I first met Gesser Bhai, where I was manning a booth in 2016 to register people to vote. So for all of us, this election process, November 3rd is election day. It is a very important day. It is a midterm election, but every election in our county, in our country is important. But midterms and presidential, the even year elections are even more important because we have so many people on the ballot, all the way from the top to the bottom. It is so important that we look at the ballot and we vote for every single candidate, top and bottom. How do we do that? Register to vote. And I know I don't have to ask any of you guys in this room, are you registered to vote or not, because I know you are. So what do we do from there? From there, what we do is we make sure people in our home, people are, our work, our friends network, our family, everyone is registered to vote. It is incumbent on all of us to make sure that our circles, our networks are registered to vote. The last day to register to vote, and yes, you do have to register to vote, is October 3rd. And so it is very, very important that we make sure that we do that. Sorry, it's October 5th. Election day is November 3rd. And we are 112 days away from election day. That's 3.6 months. Ask any candidate who's right now on the ballot, they know that, because that is a very short time and it's gonna go by very, very quick. So make sure that you're registered to vote, your friends and family are. You read and you learn about, the candidates. As Gesser Bhai said, this is a nonpartisan organization. We're not here to tell you who to vote for, other than encourage you and to make sure that you get out and vote. So how do you learn about who to vote for? League of Women Voters. It's a great organization, nonpartisan. You can look them up, 411.org, and you can put in your zip code and it'll tell you everyone who's on your ballot and what they stand for. They do the hard work for all of us. They ask the questions and they make sure that they put it together in one place for you to read it and come out and vote. Next one, volunteer. We can all volunteer. Even if you cannot register to vote because you're not a citizen, you can volunteer to vote. There's so many candidates and elected officials, like we're running again, who would appreciate that support. As a community, we build civic engagement by giving back. When we talk about 250 years of freedom for America, that comes with the responsibility of, if you're a citizen, you register to vote and you exercise that right to vote. Unfortunately, as a state, we're considered a non-voting state. Imagine if all of us voted, how the outcome of our elections would be. So again, make sure you take your 10 friends to go out to vote, and you register to vote, and you show up on election day to vote. So a few important dates. Monday, October 5th is the last day to register to vote. Election day is November 3rd, and early voting days, I'm not going to go over it because I know you'll forget, but we only have one weekend day in between early voting to be able to vote. That's a very important weekend that we want to make sure that we get out and we vote early. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I know you mentioned that you are in between them and dinner. It turns out, no, you're not. At this point, I'll ask Mr. Patel to please come to the podium.
Thank you very much, Kaisar Imam. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to introduce you the Precinct 4 Commissioner, Honorable Dexter McCoy. He is a little late today. Give him a big PAVA round of applause.
So good to see you, and it's an honor to be here. I always love when I come here, not only for the great food, but y'all have some incredible punch too that I love eating at this restaurant. But I want to say a special thank you to Rahman, to everyone here at the Pakistani American Voters Association for inviting all of us here and celebrating America's 250th anniversary as a nation. It's befitting that we are in a room full of immigrants. celebrating the founding of this nation. Because especially in a day and a time when people who come from foreign lands are being otherized, being told that you don't belong here, that we are celebrating this great country that we all have the privilege of calling home as a body of immigrants is really important. So please give yourselves a round of applause for even being in the room today. I just say this and I'll take my leave because I know I'm the one standing between you and dinner. I just came from a forum hosted alongside Representative Jean Wu, where we're talking about the rich diversity of our community, a place where over a third of our residents are foreign born, and one of the largest, most active parts of that community is our Pakistani community. And that we are gathered here today to celebrate how we engage civically is very important. Because there are people who don't want you to be engaged. There are people who don't want you to have the right to vote. There are people who don't even want you to have the right to be a citizen in this country. And now this is not meant to be vicious words. This is not meant to be divisive. This is meant to be a call to action that you belong here. You have a place here, and that our community is a better place because you chose to be here. That's important. And I think as we celebrate 250 years of where this country has been, we have to commit ourselves to being part of the next 250 years of where this country is going. So thank you so much for the way that you're showing up to serve. Thank you so much for elevating those folks in our community who have answered the call to serve. And I pray that even in these dark times that each of us serves as a light for our community in celebrating all the hope that lies ahead of us and all the great things that each of us can do together. So God bless you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you today, and keep up the great work.